Hi, today we're going to learn how to use VPN to stay secure and private online. Wow, this is a tough job. Just kidding. When you use NordVPN, all it takes is just a single click. See for yourself. Click, and you're browsing securely on public Wi-Fi. Click, your ISP can't see what you do online. Click, and you're in a different country. Well, virtually. Any device you have there, NordVPN has you covered. Everything else is just details. But if you care to know more, NordVPN has more than 5,000 servers all over the world. It protects your sensitive data with advanced encryption, shields you from malware and phishing sites, and keeps no logs of your online activity.
Click link in the description and get 68% discount for your first order. Using soap and water. Wipe fresh acrylic paint with a wet cloth. Dampen a washcloth or rag slightly and try to wipe away as much of the paint as you can. Switch out the cloth as needed if it becomes too saturated. This may be ineffective on paint stains that have been dry for a while. Soap and water are most effective on fresh paint stains. Moisten a fresh cloth with hot water and put some soap on it. Use a basic glycerin soap, like dish soap, that will produce a good lather and get into the grain of the wood. You can use liquid or bar soap for this. Scrub the remaining paint gently with the soapy cloth. Keep scrubbing and adding more soap until all the paint is gone. Rub the cloth in straight lines with the grain of the wood to try and get all the paint out of the grooves. Wipe the area with a damp cloth to remove the soap residue. Continue to wipe at the spot until the soap suds are gone. You may need to rinse the cloth once if the spot was really soapy. Use a dry cloth or towel to dry the area. Wipe away as much excess water as possible. The wood will remain damp and may take up to 48 hours to fully dry depending on the size of the spot. Using alcohol. Scrape the paint stain with a putty knife. Try to gently chip off as much of the top layer of paint as possible. Any paint you can remove this way will be less paint that the alcohol has to cut through. Be careful not to dig into the wood and leave scratch marks behind. Apply some alcohol on a cloth. Use basic rubbing alcohol, which can be purchased at most drugstores or grocery stores. Place the cloth on top of the open bottle and shake it once or twice to saturate a small section of the cloth. Rub the remaining paint with the cloth. Keep adding alcohol to the cloth and continue rubbing until all the paint is gone. Alcohol can damage the wood's finish, so only use it on the exact area of the paint stain. Wipe the alcohol away. Moisten a clean cloth with a bit of water and wipe the area with it to remove all the remaining residue. The wood may still smell of alcohol, but that will dissipate over time. Wipe the surface with a dry cloth. Rub the damp spot until all excess moisture is removed. The wood will still be wet, but should dry within 24 hours. Using a heat gun. Determine if the painted area is large enough to use a heat gun. If you're removing paint from an entire door or piece of furniture, using a heat gun may be worthwhile. If you only need to remove a few small spots, then other methods, like soap or alcohol, may be a more practical choice. If you decide to use a heat gun and wish to buy one, they are relatively inexpensive and can be purchased at craft stores and hardware stores. Read all product instructions carefully. You can char the wood and even start a fire if you use too high a setting. Read the safety instructions to be sure you know the proper way to use the heat gun. Melting paint can also create harmful vapors, so be sure to wear protective gear like safety goggles and a mask or respirator. Aim the gun at the paint and turn it on. Hold it 3 minutes 4 inches 7 minutes 10 centimeters away from the stain for about 10 minutes 20 seconds at a time. Try moving it in small circular motions to heat a larger area at once. Scrape at the stain with a putty knife. While holding the heat gun, with one hand, try to get under the stain with the edge of the knife. The paint should begin to soften and peel away. Clean off the putty knife as needed and continue scraping until all the paint is gone. Turn off the heat gun anytime you set it down to clean the putty knife. Wipe down the surface once it's cool. Wait until the wood is no longer hot and wipe it with a damp cloth to remove any remaining residue. You can add some soap to the cloth for added cleaning power. See method above for full instructions. Using a solvent. Choose a solvent. The most common paint stripper is methylene chloride. It's extremely potent and should be used with care. There are solvents that are citrus-based and more environmentally friendly, but these are still dangerous and proper safety precautions should be taken. Solvents can be purchased at your local hardware or paint store. Put on safety gear. Wear eye protection, like safety glasses or goggles, and a ventilation mask to protect yourself from the harmful vapors. It's also a good idea to wear gloves and long sleeves since the product could splash. Create proper ventilation. Work outside if possible, but if the wood can't be moved, open all windows and doors. Set a fan behind you so that the airflow blows the fumes away from you and out a window or door. Roll or brush on solvent. Use a paintbrush or paint roller to apply a thin coat of the solvent to the paint. Allow it to sit for about 20 minutes, or however long the instructions recommend. The paint will begin to bubble as the solvent is working. Scrape off bubbled paint. Use a blunt plastic scraper to scratch off the paint that has begun bubbling and peeling. Avoid using sharp metal tools that will gauge the wood. Collect the peeling paint in a disposable container or plastic bag. Cleanse the area with mineral spirits. Some manufacturers claim that water alone will clean the area, but the best way to ensure the wood is neutralized is to wipe it with a rag soaked in mineral spirits. Wait a week to refinish the wood. Give the wood at least a week to completely dry and air out before you attempt to apply any stains or waxes. Sanding the wood. Anding the wood. Sanding the wood. Ding the wood. Bending the wood. Sanding the wood. Rub the paint using steel wool or sandpaper. Use #0 steel wool or fine sandpaper 150-180 grit. If there is a lot of paint to remove, start with a coarser sandpaper like 80-120 grit or, in extreme cases, 40-60 grit. Do this very gently to remove only the paint. Large areas can be sanded with power sanders, but be sure to wear a protective mask and safety glasses and read all product instructions carefully. Clean the wood with a damp cloth. Run a wet rag over the wood to wipe away sawdust and debris. Swap the cloth out for a fresh one if it becomes too dirty while you're cleaning. Refinish the wood. Once it's dry again, touch up the wood using the same finish or stain that was used on it before. If you don't have any extra or don't know what was used on it, try to match it as closely as possible with samples from your local hardware store.